certainly someone who supports the intent of Senator Kuehl's original bill, which is basically if you're going to do any type of development that requires significant amounts of water, you need to show that that water exists so that we don't continue to develop on paper water. I think that's an important policy anywhere in the state, but in the arid areas that you've described, maybe even more so than in some other places. On the other hand, we want to see these renewable energy projects move forward and be successful, and I'm hugely supportive of that as well. So what I think you are proposing is an attempt to create a very narrow exemption, and I've been trying to work through staff with you to get to a place that I could be comfortable, that would recognize that these projects don't use a lot of water. I want to make that as narrow as possible for me to be able to support this, and so we've suggested that we just say numerically 75 acre-feet or less. What we've been told through staff is that 90% at least of the projects that are contemplated here would be under that threshold, so that would work for them. If you're willing to accept that amendment, I'm happy to support the bill. So let me just put that to you.
Mr. Chairman, I've always been a believer that you get what you can, and if it gets your support as the chair of this committee, I would gladly accept that amendment. Okay, and I appreciate that the bill is also narrowly limited to photovoltaic and wind projects. So my hope is that this is not a huge barn door precedent into the Show Me the Water policy that we established many years ago, and that it can also work for the renewables. Thank you. The amendments would be taken then in appropriation. Yes, it would. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Yamada.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick clarification on this new proposal from the 250 dwelling units to 75 acre-feet. I'm assuming that the 75 acre-feet is one time only during the development of the project, or is this ongoing annually for maintenance and operations?
It's annually.
I'm sorry?
Annually.
Annually, and what about any expansion? Does that then stack if there's some expansion of the, for example, for photovoltaic, coming from a 92% zoned ag district, I have an appreciation of, how much land can be taken and put to this use.
Reflecting back on my land use days at the county, if you try to then expand, it would reopen in the CEQA process, and if it exceeded then the 75 acre-foot per year threshold, then you would have to do a water supply assessment, which I think is, in commenting with the chair, very reasonable. It would include 90% of the projects that are moving forward, so it gets us there.
I neglected to ask for other witnesses. I know Dr. Halderman wants to jump in here. Let me just quickly ask if there are any other witnesses in support. Any witnesses in opposition? Ask them to come forward.
Mr. Chair, committee members, my name is Jim Metropolis. I represent the Sierra Club. We are opposed to the bill in print. I certainly understand that there is an amendment on the table. That amendment we'd have to take a look at to decide whether or not we drop our opposition. I just want to speak to the bill in print, and like the chair stated, his conflict regarding the promotion of renewable energy projects versus making sure we have adequate water supplies. The Sierra Club shares that sentiment. There's no stronger supporter of renewable energy projects than the 33%. We certainly support a lot of renewable energy projects, large scale, in Kern County, and I believe the senator is aware of that. We just think it's very important in those areas where we have limited water supplies in the matter of planning for future development, growth, climate change, whatever else, that we have enough water through the future in those areas where these projects are proposed. And certainly we are very concerned of the possibility that we're setting a precedent here for other industry-specific or project-specific exemptions to the Show Me the Water, the laws, which we think need to be strengthened and not weakened. Certainly, we would look forward to working with the author and committee staff as to how this bill might be amended. Thank you for allowing me to comment.
Thank you. Dr. Halderman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to compliment you on unbelievable acrobatic feat. You managed to find a crevice between a rock and a hard place. This bill is proof that compromise exists in this legislature, that bipartisanship can happen, that it requires everybody to be willing to not get everything they want. And I assure you, I wish there were more that I would get from this. And Mr. Chair, I'm positive, would like a little less. But regardless,
I'd like a little more in the budget vote this afternoon, actually.
Hope springs eternal, Mr. Chair.
That's true.
I just wanted to commend you on that. It is an endangered species in this building, this collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments.
All right. Would you like to close, Senator?
Respectfully ask for your aye vote.
All right, thank you. Let's call the roll.
Do pass the Local Government Committee. Huffman.
Aye.
Huffman, aye. Halderman. Aye. Halderman, aye. Berryhill. Blumenfield. Campos. Fong. Gatto. Gatto, aye. Hernandez. Hernandez, aye. Hueso.
Aye.
Hueso, aye. Jones. Lara. Olson. Olson, aye. Yamada.
That bill's on call needs one. We'll go to your third bill, Senator Rubio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. SB 317 is a district-specific measure that will reauthorize. Thank you. I respectfully ask for aye vote.
Why don't we quickly ask witnesses in support to register their position?
Quickly.
Everybody likes the bill.
So nobody wants to hear the history.
You could talk us out of it, I suppose.
Say thank you.
Thank you. My name's Hank Erbach. I'm a longtime fisherman. We started on this project in the mid-'80s. Depending on the fact that we had cooperative partners, KRWA, Mr. Steve Haugen here, the water master, the Kings River Conservation District, and the Department of Fish and Game as the three partners in the program. We're in our 12th year. We put back habitat. Fishing has improved dramatically. We have people that come and fish the lower Kings River in the wintertime from all over the state and Utah and Oregon. The program is working, and we're asking for you to reauthorize the department to continue to participate. Their participation is absolutely critical.
I'm a little upset that the chair hasn't been invited down for a fact-finding trip.
Let me take that opportunity, and particularly Dr. Halderman, since she's in the program is entirely in her district, but any of you who would like to come down and take a tour. I'm also sit on the board of the Kings River Conservancy. We run regular float trips.
All right.
Guess what?
Let's work on that.
We can work on that. Anyway, I really
you.
appreciate. Thank you for
Your support is appreciated. Next witness.
Yeah, I'm Steve Haugen, Water Master for Kings River Water Association, also representing Kings River Conservation District today, and I'm also the Executive Director of the Kings River Fisheries Management Program. And I'm just here to thank you for your efforts, thank the Senator for what he's doing with his bill, and available for any questions you might have.
Terrific. Ms. Olson?
Thank you. My concern with the current draft is that it takes money out of the fisheries fund that had bipartisan support in my district. But I understand that your intent in Assembly Appropriations is to remove the funding from that source and find another location. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Then I'm going to lay off the bill today just because I want to see that in print. But I really appreciate you taking that amendment and look forward to supporting it on the floor.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Halderman.
You did again. Nice work. I would like to hereby extend an invitation to any member of the committee that would like to see this area, and I officially commit that I will not push Mr. Huffman out into the river, and that's on the record.
No such commitment from the public.
Wow. All right. I'm not sure I'm going to make that fact-finding trip. Let's call the roll.
Do pass to Appropriations Committee. Huffman.
Aye.
Huffman, aye. Halderman. Aye. Halderman, aye. Berryhill. Blumenfield. Campos. Fong. Gatto. Gatto, aye. Hernandez. Hernandez, aye. Hueso.
Aye.
Hueso, aye. Jones. Lara. Olson. Yamada.
Aye.
Yamada, aye.
That bill is on call. It needs one. Thank you, Senator. And I know that Senator Harmon was thinking about fishing as he was waiting to present this bill. Angler that he is. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And yes, I was thinking about fishing, and it's nice to be here and present a bill to the chair and the committee. The chair and I are both members of Cal Trout, and I would remind the chair that our first annual Cal Trout fly casting contest is tomorrow.
Second annual.
At 2 o'clock on the North Lawn, and I want to warn you in advance: the Republicans have been practicing, so
it's on.
We're ready. We're ready. I'd like to present SB 386 at this time. I am willing to accept as amendments the ones listed in the committee analysis. One of them is in print in the actual analysis, and I think two other ones there are both sort of minor and technical are available to the committee in draft form, and I'm willing to take all of those. Yes.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate that.
SB 386 would set specific notification requirements that must be met by the Department of Parks before a state park may be closed. In January, as many of us know, the governor said the administration would be forced to close state parks as budget solution, and just days ago the long-awaited hit list of about 70 parks was announced, so we now know which ones are potentially on the chopping block. What we don't know is what alternatives were explored by the Department of Parks to keep these parks open to the public. That's what this Bill 386 addresses: transparency. There needs to be a standard process established that we can look at state park closures. Here is what SB 386 will do. It's pretty straightforward and simple. It would, 1, identify the park unit proposed for closure, then 2, identify the approximate date of the proposed closure, and 3, list information on its website how to contact the department in writing if an individual or other party wishes to indicate in writing to the department an interest to enter into negotiations for a contract to lease, operate, maintain, or provide concessions. SB 386 would also require the Department of Parks to respond to such written inquiries. The department currently has authority to look into alternative funding measures, yet there's little sunshine on this process. This bill is a first step in shedding more light onto efforts to keep our parks open. I'd ask for your aye vote.
All right. Thank you. Witnesses in support? Any witnesses in opposition? All right. Questions or comments from the committee?
Move the bill.
All right. Motion. I will, in a second by Ms. Olson. We'll just accept your statement as your closed, Senator, if that's okay with you, and we'll call the roll.
You pass with amendments to Appropriations Committee. Huffman?
Aye.
Huffman, aye. Haldeman?
Aye.
Haldeman, aye. Berryhill? Blumenfield? Campos? Fong? Gatto? Gatto, aye. Hernandez? Hernandez, aye. Hueso?
Aye.
Hueso, aye. Jones? Lara? Olson?
Aye.
Olson, aye. Yamada?
No.
Yamada, no.
That bill needs one and is on call, Senator.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Blakesley, welcome.
Break the legs.
Let's see.
This is a tough chamber.
Welcome. You were going to be on consent, but you're not anymore. So.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to present the bill. High point of my day. I appreciate the opportunity, and also would hasten to add, be happy to take the proposed amendment on page 2 of the analysis, which allows for partnerships between local governments and DPR in those cases where park actions may be necessary. 356 provides local governments with the opportunity to keep state parks and their communities open in the event the state proposes to close them. I won't repeat the testimony from the earlier author, but all those same points obviously are known to this committee. What I will point out is some of those parks that were left open were done so because they do provide revenue and provide the ability to offset the costs to the state, which makes perfect sense. But there are some parks which don't provide sufficient revenue to the state, but do in many ways provide plenty of revenue to local government, either by virtue of creating more tourism activity, dinners in the local community. And we have one such park in our district, which is slated for closure, which local government has said is very important for economic activity locally. May not pencil out for the state to take responsibility, but local government has expressed interest in entering into conversations to explore that opportunity to help, and this bill would facilitate that.
All right. We have a motion from Dr. Halderman. I will second the bill. Any witnesses here in support? Any witnesses in opposition? I see Mr. Hueso has a question.
I just have a comment.
Okay, please.
And
please.
There have been other bills to this effect, and I haven't supported them, and I'll tell you why. I do support funding state parks, keeping them open, looking for other mechanisms. You probably don't need a bill to accomplish that at the local level. However, I think the state has to make a commitment to all parks equally. I serve in a part of the city that has a state park that doesn't have the funding in local government, mainly because we represent mostly underserved areas that would potentially keep these parks open. I'm hoping that the state makes a better commitment in keeping state parks open. We need to find a funding source to keep all state parks open equally. I even support putting state parks in an enterprise fund and finding a way to fund those in and of themselves so we can keep our state parks fully funded. We have a lot of amenities at our parks that need to be improved, access routes that need to be improved. We have a backlog of unfunded projects relating to parks, and still, unless we start to address those through a comprehensive plan, we're going to continue to kick our state parks needs down the road. And I believe in a comprehensive solution, and but I'm not kicking your idea as a bad one. I just from a philosophical point of view, and this is not necessarily just a philosophical position, but it's more of an intent to work on a comprehensive solution. I think we can, working in a bipartisan fashion, to keep our state parks open.
Ms. Yamada.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And actually, I probably should have made some remarks when Senator Harman was here as well, being the only no vote recorded at the moment on his bill. In much the same vein as Assemblymember Hueso, just to be consistent with a vote that I had taken earlier in this committee on the same issue, I have 3 state parks in my district, 2 of whom are closing in the same community, and one in another county that is fortunately going to continue. The Woodland Opera House is able to sustain itself through performance revenue, although it's going to be a challenge, and they were not actually slated for closure. Over time, they have been able to address some of the funding shortfalls. But because the communities in which both of the state parks are closing had already stepped up to the plate, I think in anticipation of the rounds of threatened closures, I think that communities are able to do this on their own already if they have the willingness and the revenue to be able to do so. So for that reason, I also will not be able to support your bill today.
All right, Assemblymember Campos.
Thank you, Senator, for coming before this committee. And I'm not going to reiterate what my colleagues have said, but I have some of the same concerns and I think the same views, where I believe that we need to look at this from a comprehensive perspective and create policies. And I'm hoping that if there are opportunities to be able to address this at a broader level so that we're creating equity across California, I hope that I can be a part of that discussion. So I just wanted to reiterate, but I thank you for the opportunity to be able to look at your bill and hear your bill, and the fact that you have brought this to a broader discussion. Thank you.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Senator, let me just say that I certainly share the desire for something more comprehensive here. I think the whole idea of park closures is crazy the more I look at it, and I am working in every way I can to try to push back against it and prevent it. And I think, one doesn't need to read too far between the lines to hear that there's a strong desire among members of my party to work with Republicans to find some revenue to do that. We really need to come together and make that happen. That said, I'm also really interested in working on a toolbox of things that can help keep some parks open while we continue that process. So I'm going to support your bill. I'm supporting other creative ways to try to get us through this mess, and I appreciate your efforts.
Sure, and I'll just close with just a brief comment, if I may. We always face those challenges, I think, in the legislature about whether you implement what fixes you can or you create what tools in the toolbox are available to you with the opportunities in front of us. Obviously, the chair's approach using cooperative associations is potentially a very powerful approach, which I fully support. I served as a chair of such a nonprofit working in state parks and spent almost 4 years of my life in state parks fighting to keep parks open because there was a shortfall of revenue. And this was during the early Davis administration and late Wilson administration. So these funding challenges have been hitting the state because of the cyclicity of our revenues, which we all understand, unfortunately, due to the business cycle and the way our tax structure is created. And there are larger arguments, obviously, about how we can fix all of those. And I guess we could all stop working on anything until we fix the cyclicity. But, as a Republican, I'm trying to bring forward ideas that help keep some parks open, which I believe in passionately and did before I came to this building. And I'm hoping that, that the fact it's only one tool in a toolbox as opposed to the comprehensive toolbox doesn't doom the bill to failure, because if it does so, it probably ends up dooming more parks to closure than would otherwise be necessary, which would be an even greater tragedy. Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator. We'll call the roll.
Do pass with amendments to Appropriations Committee. Huffman.
Aye.
Huffman, aye. Haldeman. Aye. Haldeman, aye. Berryhill. Blumenfield. Campos. Fong. Gatto. Gatto, aye. Hernandez. Hueso. Hueso, no. Jones. Lara. Olson. Aye. Olson, aye. Yamada. No. Yamada, no.
That bill is on call, needs 3.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And we need authors. So it looks like we're down to Senator Evans and Senator Berryhill. If we could hopefully get one of them here to the committee, we should be able to wrap up pretty quickly.
I have to leave at 8:30. I have a budget briefing.
Okay. That's a great idea. Thank you, Dr. Halderman. So why don't we give members a chance to register on the bills that are on call first, and then we can do some add-ons perhaps.
Item number 1, SB 16. Current vote is 4-0. Haldeman was not voting. Continue. Berryhill. SB 16. Berryhill. Blumenfield. Campos. Campos, aye. Fong. Jones. Lara. Olson. Aye. Olson, aye. And Yamada was not voting.
Great. Senator Evans is here, so why don't we go ahead and we'll come back to the bills that are on call. Welcome, Senator.
Good morning.
Where would you like to start? You've got 3 for us, right?
Let's go in numeric order. How about that?
Okay. You've got 2. One was on consent, actually. So.
Actually, I had 3, and 1 is on consent. I have
okay.
SB 369 and SB 470.
Right.
I'm happy to put them all on consent.
we tried. We'll get you there.
We can do crab or salmon. Which comes first?
Let's start with the bottom of the ocean, the crab.
Good place to start. All right, SB 369 relating to Dungeness crab.
Want to move the bill, Mr. Chair?
All right. It's a motion and a second. That's a good start.
Then I'll just be very, very brief in my presentation and turn it over to the witnesses. The bill establishes a new crab trap limit program and basically follows up on legislation that my predecessor, Senator Patricia Wiggins, had authored with respect to a Dungeness crab task force. And with that, I'll ask for your aye vote and ask for my witnesses to make a brief statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. My name is Zeke Grader. I'm Executive Director for the Pacific Coast Federation of Fishermen's Associations, and among others, we represent the majority of California's organized Dungeness crab fishermen. We had twice sponsored legislation to try and put trap limits in place in California. Unfortunately, both those pieces of legislation did not get signed, making California now the only state on the Pacific Coast that does not have in place trap limits for its Dungeness crab fishery, and it really is putting our resources and our fishermen at risk by not having this. This bill would move in that direction, putting in place finally trap limits for this fishery. This bill was a result of a year-long arduous negotiations among all the members in the fishing industry to come up with a compromise. It's probably not the way my organization would have drafted it, but it is a compromise intended to bring everybody to the table with something they feel that everybody at least can support, and it does move us finally towards putting in place trap limits, and we'd urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Great. Just to clarify, Senator Evans, there was a typo that we were correcting with a technical amendment, and I think you're taking that amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to vote on this bill, and I have to leave to budget briefing right now. Is it possible to?
Well, let's ask the impossibly named Mr. Crabb if he needs to testify.
No, I would just say I'm representing EDF on this, and
right.
We're in support.
You're in support. All right. Quickly, other witnesses in support?
Michelle Hook, Sierra Club, California.
Sierra Club in support. Any witnesses in opposition? Yeah, we'll need to hear from them, unfortunately. Okay.
You're not in opposition.
If you could bear with us, Mr. Hueso.
Oh, I think there's some with concerns, not opposition.
All right. Concern is welcome.
I'm Tom Estes, a commercial crab fisherman from Fort Bragg, California. I'm here on behalf of myself and the Coastal Fish Boat Owners Alliance. We have been trying to work with the author on this bill about a few amendments. We would like to see the latent permits that were going to be offered, 175 traps, be reduced to 0 and be non-transferable. And where I'm coming from is the three colleagues here that we represent some of the larger producers in the state. We are the ones that are going to take the hit. We're going to give up 40 to 50% of the traps we fish, which I believe would equate to about 40 or 50% of our income, and require us to probably downgrade our crew by at least 25%.
All right, others?
My name is Vince Doyle. I'm from Fort Bragg as well. I sat on the Dungeness Crab Task Force as a upper producer representative from Fort Bragg. I am also on the executive committee of the Dungeness Crab Task Force. I would tend to agree with what Tom Estes had to say. I think that the latent permits should be non-transferable permanently, not just a 2-year moratorium, which the bill asked for. The second thing I would like to see is I'd like to see the poundage reflected in the bill that was in the original Wiggins bill I'm not sure if I'm phrasing that right, but rather than 55 vessels and then 55 vessels and 55 vessels, it would be that 415,000 pounds, and then I'm going to let Bob touch on this one, but it was his piece of cake, but I'd like to see that amendment as well. A lot of people on the task force, I know that they focused on the number, or I should say the poundage number, rather than the number of vessels when they made their decision to raise their hand when that was adopted. I'd like to give a little bit of rationale why I'd like to see the latent permits non-transferable. These permits have not been active in the fisheries or have been at a very low level of participation in the fisheries. And in essence, what you're doing is you're taking from the top 55 vessels, like Tom has said, we're giving up 30, 40, 50% of our gear, and that gear is being reallocated down to latent participants who haven't participated in the fisheries at all. So in essence, what you're doing is you're taking from the boats that have been contributing the most to our local economies and our local communities, and you're giving it to the vessels that have contributed the least, and in some cases, nothing to our local ports and economies, which are struggling right now, as we all know. I mean, you guys are struggling with a budget. You know, we're struggling trying to keep our ice stock afloat, how to keep our fuel lot going. We're having to buy fuel off the trucks. And these are the guys that are being impacted the hardest, the 55 guys that are nailing down or keeping this infrastructure in place right now, and you're going to give the pots from those folks, the guys that aren't giving anything. I mean, they have no investment or nothing. And I have a hard time seeing the equality in that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We typically just hear testimony from two witnesses in chief. If you want to briefly add on, we'll certainly accommodate that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm Bob Dooley. I'm from Half Moon Bay, California. I've been in the fishing industry all my life. My family was in the fishing industry. I still am an active fisherman. I've been in the Dungeness crab fishery for over 30 years. I was still adamantly against this bill to begin with. I've since agreed with the majority of it, with the exception of the issues that Tom and Vince have brought up, particularly the pounds. I think that the omission of the poundage in the current bill, as I've seen it, is a real problem. I think it needs to be it needs to be there for transparency, for all the people that have understood this bill since day one, those were the benchmarks we used, were the poundage, and I think they need to be re-added into the bill.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman and members, Rob Ross on behalf of the Coastal Alliance and the California Fisheries and Seafood Institute. I think we're real close, and I think these things can be fixed with a little bit of effort. I'm willing to work day and night to do that.
Very good. Senator, did you want to respond to any of the opposition?
Yeah, I'll just respond. I am very sympathetic to the issues that have been raised by the folks that are in opposition here today, and I've worked with them even prior to the time that Senator Wiggins had retired last year. We were working together on this, and it's very problematic and very complicated. I'm not even sure I can articulate exactly what the problems are, but when you try to move the trap limits around and you try to fool around with the allocations, it becomes very problematic. You push it here and it comes out there. And we're dealing with a relatively large industry task force that has been trying to come to some agreement on this issue. The best that I can say is this bill represents the majority agreement. Obviously, there is still some opposition to the issue, and I'm completely sympathetic to it. The task force continues to be in existence, however. So if there are ways for us to come back and amend this as time goes on,
so that's
I'm
a forum
completely
that
open
can
to
continue
it.
to
And desirous of it. I would love to make everybody happy. I think we all share the same goals, and that is the health of the industry long term. So this is the best we can do at this time, and I will continue and make my commitment very clear, continue to working with folks on this.
Well, very
good. The bill
good.
as it is should go forward as it is.
If there are no questions or comments from the committee, we'll take that as your close.
Thank you.
And we had a motion and a second early on, so let's call the roll.
Do pass with amendments to Appropriations Committee? Huffman.
Aye.
Huffman, aye. Halderman? No. Halderman, no. Berryhill? Blumenfield? Campos?
Aye.
Campos, aye. Fong? Gatto? Aye. Gatto, aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Hueso? Jones? No. Jones, no. Lara? Olson? No. Olson, no. Yamada? Yamada, aye.
That bill is on call. Senator, let's go further up the water column to the salmon.
Thank you very much. Thank you. This bill extends the salmon stamp program, which will expire this year unless we reauthorize the existing law. The program...
All right.
Be brief again. The program has been in existence for 30 years. Again, the goal of the legislation and the program is to help support a sustainable salmon industry, which is very important not only to my district but the entire state of California. Again, Zeke Grader is here with me with the Pacific Coast Federation of Fishermen's Association.
Yes, very briefly, Mr. Chairman and members. This is, as the Senator said, is a carry on a bill that actually we worked to create some 30 years ago on behalf of our salmon fishermen. It's been a very successful program. It's got widespread support among the industry, and we would like to see it continue on. There have been a few changes made in the program, but I think these are acceptable, and they're mostly made in response to some fish and game funding issues that we have to deal with, but we would urge your aye vote on this.
All right. Any questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, why don't we go right to the roll call? Thank you.
Do pass to Appropriations Committee. Huffman?
Aye.
Huffman, aye. Halderman? No. Halderman, no. Berryhill? Blumenfield? Campos? Aye. Campos, aye. Fong?
Fong, aye.
Fong, aye. Gatto? Aye. Gatto, aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Hueso? Jones? No. Jones, no. Lara? Olson? Yamada? Aye.
Was that an aye, Ms. Olson?
I think so.
Or an oi?
Oi.
Olson, aye. Yamada? Yamada, aye.
Oi. That bill is out.
Thank you very much.
All right, so our last bill of the day, if Senator Berryhill is here or can get here, while we're waiting for him, we'll go ahead and lift the call on some other bills.
Item number three, SB 263. The current vote is 5-4. Absent members Blumenfield, Fong.
What item is that?
Item number three.
This is
SB 263. Havley.
well logs.
Fong, aye. Hernandez. Hernandez, aye. That bill is out.
All right. Senator Pavley's bill is out.
Item number 4, SB 267. Current vote is 6-0.
Chair voting aye.
Chair voting aye. Absent members, Berryhill, Blumenfield, Campos. Aye. Campos, aye. Fong.
Not voting.
Fong not voting. Jones.
Aye.
Jones, aye. Lara.
That bill's out. You were not voting. You were.
Yeah, you were not voting on that.
Is that one out there?
Yes. Yeah. Item number 5, SB 317. Current vote is 6-0. Absent members Berryhill, Blumenfield, Campos.
Aye.
Campos, aye. Fong.
Fong, aye.
Fong, aye. Jones.
Aye.
Jones, aye. Lara. That bill is out.
That bill is out, okay.
Item number 6, SB 356. Current vote is 4-2. Chair voting aye. Absent members, Berryhill, Blumenfield, Campos, Fong, Jones,
I'm sorry, what was the bill number? Item number?
6.
Yes.
Jones, aye.
Come on up, Tom. Welcome.
Lara. That bill's still on call.
All right, why don't we, we've got the Berryhill brothers here, so why don't we go ahead and...
I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
Welcome back.
Welcome
Welcome back to the committee,
Yeah,
Senator.
Good to be here. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members, certainly for this opportunity to present SB 752. This bill would assist nonprofit sportsmen's organizations in their efforts to raise awareness of land management and wildlife conservation. These nonprofits work closely with the Department of Fish and Game on various conservation projects that rely heavily on volunteer work to complete these critical efforts. With literally hundreds of thousands of hunting licenses issued each year, just about 1 million fishing licenses issued, this is a great opportunity and great time to partner together to better our land and natural resources. The committee analysis notes suggested amendments that I will accept, which I believe keep this bill to a manageable level but still fosters a working relationship between the nonprofit entities and the state. I would like to add that this bill has a broad range of support from California waterfowl associations, Ducks Unlimited, California Council of Land Trusts, amongst many others. I ask for your aye vote. I do have Mark Henley with me here today. I'm very lucky to have Mark with California Outdoor Heritage Alliance, a good friend, a great conservationist. So with that, I ask for an aye vote.
All right, we have a motion by, who was the motion? Mr. Jones, and second by Mr. Berryhill. Mr. Henley, please.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Mark Henley with California Outdoor Heritage Alliance. As Senator Berryhill touched on, this is all about promoting more grassroots conservation at the local level, promoting more projects for fish and wildlife purposes. One example of a project that would benefit through this is California Waterfowl right now has a wood duck nesting box program, which relies totally on volunteers. It's hatched over, I believe now, 500,000 wood ducks since its inception in 1991. We believe that the bill would help to expand the volunteer base for that program, and therefore you'll have more boxes on the ground and therefore greater production of wood ducks in the state, up and down the state. One thing to note is the bill is completely voluntary. When a sportsman goes in and purchases his license, if he doesn't want to sign the checkoff box, he doesn't have to do it.
Right.
And then also, I just wanted to mention, too, I think the timing of this bill is really good, given that Fish and Game is finally going to the automated data license system, their electronic system. I think this bill can therefore be implemented in an efficient and effective manner as possible, given that transition. So we'd urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any witnesses here, other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition?
Hi, I'm Virginia Handley with PAWPAC, and today I'm also representing the Public Interest Coalition. And we are in opposition to this bill. We do not think it is at all necessary, and I think it's quite unprecedented to have people that apply for a license or permit. Somehow that public agency is now supposed to be a conduit for fundraising. Is not appropriate, and it's a bad precedent. Same thing if you get a dog license. Now the agency's supposed to tell you about the American Kennel Club, or if you take out to go into our state parks, then should they be putting out information about the Planning and Conservation League or the Sierra Club. There are many organizations that are very deserving. The only organizations that are going to qualify under this bill are hunting organizations, and in particular things like the bighorn sheep trophy hunting and with the auctions. I've taken the hunter training test twice. I don't know a gun barrel from a gun butt, but believe me, I passed. And I received a year's membership with the National Rifle Association, which I didn't ask for. There's no lack of communication and Fish and Game making these other organizations known. It's all very public. I think it's also quite unenforceable. Once, as far as the amendment, well, this information is not to be sold or shared. Once you're on their mailing list, how are you going to prove where they got the name or the address? It's just completely unenforceable, and adding on to the junk mail that people will get to try to get them to do it, to join the organization. We just don't think there is any need for this bill, and it is very inappropriate, and we think that it should not pass. Thank you very much. Oh, yes, also not just sharing, but they sell these lists. So there's no guarantee that a person's name and address is not going to be shared and sold.
Yeah, if I might, Mr. Chairman, I would remind everybody that this is targeted for conservation and it is voluntary. So I would still remain asking for your aye vote.
I appreciate that, Senator. I actually had some similar concerns, and really my concerns with committee staff, our concerns came down to three areas. First, I'd like to see this bill more narrowly limited to certain types of organizations. I thought it was written in a broad way that, frankly, would have opened the door to the sharing of this information with political organizations, political advocacy groups, and I don't think that was your intent. So one of the suggested amendments is that we limit this to 501c3s. The other is that we not leave this in the discretion of the department so that they can sort of play favorites among the groups that they like or don't like and share the information with some but not others. And then the other was that the work that they perform, the type of work, I think should be limited to actual habitat or wildlife conservation work and not simply this broad definition of facilitating fishing or hunting opportunities for the public, because that, taken literally, could mean anyone who sells guns, sells fishing rods, and I don't think your intention was to, create such a broad reach for this information sharing. I could be wrong, but I want to suggest that we bring it back in to groups that are working with the department on the ground on conservation and habitat. And then finally, that there be a very specific prohibition on sharing, that groups who get this information are legally prohibited from sharing it in any way. If you're willing to take those amendments today, I'd be happy to support the bill.
We are willing to take those amendments.
Okay. Let me see if other members of the committee have questions or comments.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Thank you, Senator Berryhill. Regrettably, I'm not going to be able to support the bill, even with those amendments today, and really it speaks more to me of sort of the public policy precedent of requiring or enabling a state agency to share for fundraising purposes. I think that's what's stipulated to, despite what good may come of it. I think there are many other avenues that people can access for fundraising. I think fundraising is a part of survival for nonprofits as well as many of the rest of us in different avocations. So it's really the public policy issue that I have concerns about, privacy. There doesn't seem to me to be sufficient levels of safeguards about sharing and cross-sharing this information. So I'm sorry, but I won't be able to support it today.
Yeah, we've
Thank you.
had a number of nonprofits, very controversial in Stanislaus County here with the Stanislaus State program and whatnot. They are very careful about not sharing who. So I mean, they would ruin their reputation if they were to do so. So I mean, I really don't think that's a problem, and I certainly understand your concerns.
And Senator, one of the things that actually I like about the concept, if we can narrowly focus it along the lines we've been talking about, is that this could actually be a revenue source for the department. By selling this list to the right kind of groups for the right kind of use with the right kind of safeguards, we know the department is perpetually starved for funds, and this could actually and have the secondary benefit of encouraging groups to come forward and participate in conservation programs with the department so that they can get the access to buy this list. So with the right safeguards, I think that's where I come out on it. But Dr. Halderman.
The Department of Consumer Affairs, overseeing the Medical Board of California, currently engages in fundraising. There's an optional checkoff box to contribute to medical school loans, and also another one that contributes to the Steve Thompson Fund. So the precedent would not be set by this bill.
All right. Any other Mr. Berryhill?
Yeah, you have the DMV with the donors deal that you can check off on too. So
yeah, I don't know that list is shared though with anyone.
That's probably not shared, yeah. No. But
the
point
voluntary
is,
checkoff.
It's voluntary checkoff. It's in policy in a lot of areas in government.
Yeah. All right. There's a motion and a second. Would you like to close, Senator?
I ask for your vote.
All right. Let's call the roll.
Do pass with amendments to Appropriations Committee. Huffman.
Aye.
Huffman, aye. Halderman. Aye. Halderman, aye. Berryhill.
Aye.
Berryhill, aye. Blumenfield.
Aye.
Blumenfield, aye. Campos.
Aye.
Campos, aye. Fong. Gatto. Gatto, aye. Hernandez. Hueso. Jones.
Aye.
Jones, aye. Lara. Olson.
Aye.
Olson, aye. Yamada. Yamada, no.
That bill is out, Senator. We are going to go to Assemblymember Jeffries in a moment just for a presentation only on his bill. But before we do that, since I see a bunch of members around the table, let's lift the call.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just did want to bring up one other thing. I guess we do have a competition coming up this next week. Is that true?
The casting call.
The casting call.
Yeah.
I will be there in full force.
All right, and I understand you've been practicing, because God knows you need it.
Do I need? Do I need two different types of rods? As I want to know.
All right, we'll see you on the lawn.
Okay, bills on call. Item number 1, SB 16. Current vote is 6-0. Absent members, Berryhill. Berryhill, aye. Blumenfield. Aye. Blumenfield, aye. Fong. Jones. Yes. Aye. Jones, aye. Lara. That bill is out.
Right. You can come up, Kevin.
Item number 6, SB 356. Current vote is 5-2. Absent members, Berryhill.
Aye.
Berryhill, aye. Blumenfield.
Aye.
Blumenfield, aye. Campos.
Abstain.
Campos, abstain. Fong. Lara. That bill is out.
That bill's out.
Item number 7, SB 369. Current vote is 5-3. Absent members, Berryhill.
No.
Berryhill, no. Blumenfield.
Aye.
Blumenfield, aye. Fong. Hueso. Lara. That bill remains on call.
Okay, that bill needs one.
Needs one.
Okay.
Item number 8, SB 386. Current vote is 6-1. Berryhill.
Aye.
Berryhill, aye. Blumenfield.
Aye.
Blumenfield, aye. Campos.
No.
Campos, no. Fong. Jones.
Aye.
Jones, aye. Lara? That bill is out. Item number 11, SB 580. Current vote is 2-2. Berryhill? No. Berryhill, no. Blumenfield?
Aye.
Blumenfield, aye. Campos?
Aye.
Campos, aye. Fong? Gatto? Hernandez? I have Hueso is not voting. Lara? Olson?
I'm sorry, which bill is this?
SB 580,
What?
item number 11.
No.
Olson, no. That bill remains on call.
Bill's on call. All right. That brings us to you, Mr. Jeffries. So welcome. We're going to hear about your water bond proposal.
And you will hear it as fast as I can present it. And I appreciate the opportunity to present it for discussion today only. Like the chair, I was involved in the water bond negotiations of 2009, I think it was. And I was also the co-author involved with postponing the bond to 2012. In its simplest version, AB 157 is a vehicle for discussion and purposes of changing the size of the bond. It does not propose to reopen negotiations and change the content of what is funded and what is not funded. It simply proposes, for discussion purposes, reducing the bond by 25%. Basically taking the bond from its $11.1 billion price tag and moving it down to 8.3. I can say with certainty that we have supporters of the bond who oppose this, and we have opponents of the bond who oppose this. So we have successfully achieved what we did in the bond negotiations. We got everybody all wound up.
Bringing people together.
Bringing people together. This bill, with the committee's permission, will basically set and wait until the parties involved in this bond decide what they want to do as they approach 2012 elections. They may decide that a 25% reduction is too much, or it's not enough, or it should be left alone. This is simply a vehicle for that future discussion.
Appreciate that, Mr. Jeffries. It is, and appreciate your being agreeable to holding the bill in committee. It is going to be interesting the closer we get to November of 2012, as the stakes continue to rise. What happens? Because I think you and I agree that one of the problems with the current bond that is hardwired for that ballot is it is too big for the voters probably to approve. And you have offered one way to address that with
And
sort of a
it is one of many
25% starvation diet. Whether that passes muster, we'll see as the debate goes forward.
I agree, Mr. Chair. So,
all right. Any questions or comments from the committee?
very good.
Very good. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Jeffries. We are going to invite the members to come and add on. We have one bill that is still on call. It's Senator Wolk's bill, right? Two bills, Senator Evans? But we're going to need some members to show up before we can lift those calls. Okay. Great.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm doing the...
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you want to vote on the Berryhill?
Oh, yeah.
Hunting or hunting and fishing voluntary checkoff program.
Mr. Chair, you're not here. No public testimony on the Jeffries bill.
We just had presentation only.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
you can talk to me while I sit here if you want.
No, that's all right. I mean, Jared, just wanted to know.
Yeah.
How weird.
Yeah.
We don't like it. DWP doesn't like it.
Are you announcing the votes that were just added on? Are you announcing by name?
The only bill on call is the Wolf bill.
And Mr. Hernandez just came and did he vote on that bill?
He voted not voting on that bill. Evan's bill is on call.
Yeah, I think.
We still have 2 bills on call. Secretary, can you call the roll? The absent members.
Item number 7, SB 369. The current vote is 6-4. Absent members, Fong.
Aye.
Hueso, Lara. That bill is out. Item number 11, SB 580. Current vote is 4-4. Absent members, Fong.
Aye.
Fong, aye. Gatto. Jones. Lara. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Jones is a no. It was just Lara. That bill fails. Reconsideration? Without.
All right, we have unanimous consent for reconsideration on SB 580, Wolk.
And then add-ons?
Any others?
Mr. Fong, did you want to add on to all your...
You want to go ahead and adjourn?
You could adjourn.
Oh, can we?
After the adjournment?
All right, the...
Consent?
Oh,
We're not supposed to adjourn.
Consent,
that's
aye.
true.
SB 16, Fong.
That's right. Technically, right.
16, item number 1. Item number 6356, Fong. Current vote is 7-2. Not voting.
She's saying the chair has to come back to adjourn.
Really?
Item number 8386,
Oh, it's not what
Fong.
the committee would say, even though it's a designation.
386, item number 8. Item number 12, SB 752. Current vote is 8-2, Fong. Fong, aye. Item number 15, SB 834. Current vote is 8-3, Fong.
Aye.
Fong, aye. And that is it. Want to adjourn?
Well, there's a question whether or not we can adjourn unless Jared returns. Where did he go? I'm sorry.
For any of the, it doesn't change.